The chapel smelled of lilies and old wood polish. Sunlight cut across the patched carpet in a clean, indifferent beam, landing on the folded hands of a man who looked larger in death than he ever had in life. He lay there with his jaw set, as if the thing that had broken him could be held at bay by bone and cloth. Around him, the family moved like weather, predictable, repetitive. A mother in black so tight it might snap, an eldest son with a practiced sorrow, cousins whispering about money. Anna stood at the back, the brim of her hat shadowing her face, and felt like an intruder at her own life. The pivotal moment happened not at the eulogy, but in the pocket of her father's coat. A nurse's glove, the kind used to tuck someone in, brushed Anna's fingers as she straightened his collar, and something slipped into her palm, a small envelope. Yellowed at the edges, the handwriting slanted like a confession. She opened it because she could not open it. The words inside were short and precise. To whomever believes they have the right to keep the name, look in the ledger. Forgive me, forgive me. It read like a command and an apology all at once. Forgive me for what? For whom? In the ledger, a word that smelled of money, of accounts balanced and secrets buried, Anna heard the click of a lock snapping open. She had been shut out of the ledger for 20 years. The ledger had been the first betrayal. Her father, Hector Moretti, had been a man who could balance an olive orchard's yield in his head and a child's temperament without blinking. He favored order. He favored Marco, the oldest, who could charm a bank manager into lowering interest rates the way one might water a plant. Anna had left the town at 20 with a duffel and a promise to return renewed. At 24, the town returned a framed photograph of her father dead and a second letter, a will that left everything to Marco. Anna felt wronged with the slow, steady fury of someone learning to measure their days in dents. She felt wronged by the will's spidery legalese, by the way the town murmured, by the hollow condolences from people who had once loved her. She felt wronged by the look her mother gave her in the chapel, the look that said silently, "You always were the one who left." So she stayed. Not out of duty, not really. She stayed because the idea of injustice is a cold, palpable thing that can be warmed into a plan. Marco was not a monster. He was generous in small, staged ways. Lending his sister money he claimed to be a gift, bringing his father flowers on odd working mornings when Anna remembered doing the same and getting no applause. He had a son, Julian, the age Anna had been when she left. A boy who loved building little catapults and who never called Anna aunt without adding yet. Up close, Marco wore the armor of success, tidy shirts, a watch that cost more than Anna's rent. He also carried a private exhaustion, the kind men inherit when they have spent years keeping a house upright while the floorboards rot. Anna's revenge took the shape of patient irrigation. She learned the ledger. She learned the bank's rhythm, the dates when loans were renewed and signatures were forged like signatures on a family portrait. She befriended the staff at the cooperative, lent a hand where a hand was needed, and kept her lips like a bank's vault. She worked quietly, with the steady, unattractive efficiency of someone who has made grievance into craft. There were small victories at first, a late invoice discovered under a false name, a ledger entry that didn't balance, a rumor, the kind that seizes the thin air between two cups, that Marco had siphoned funds to an offshore account. People began to look at Marco with a curiosity that would have been unthinkable at last week's dinner. The church pew where he used to sit became a theater of side glances and courteous distance. Marco's smile thinned, but Anna could not rely on rumor. She needed proof. She needed the ledger itself. She needed to prove that the family's house, the Moretti, estate where Anna had once mended a broken gate and loved with the hot impatience of a child, had been betrayed by the man who called it his duty to protect it. At a festival, gala that Marco'd organized, an affair of lights and speeches, where the town celebrated the olive harvest and the Moretti name, Anna made her move. She had insisted on speaking, saying she would recall Hector's lessons about community and care. She stood at the podium beneath a chandelier and told a story that was only half memory. She spoke about a ledger, about numbers that smelled of rot, about how the Moretti name had sometimes been used to hide what was shameful. She produced a photocopy, careful, legal, unmistakable. The room blinked. Marco's jaw moved. His son's face contorted as if someone were squeezing it. "What is this?" Marco asked. But the question was small against the weight of all the eyes. Anna had counted the cost. She'd rehearsed the cadence of outrage. She expected anger, maybe a lawsuit, perhaps a reconciliation where truth would be met with mercy and the ledger returned. She had wanted justice. She had wanted to take back what she felt was taken from her. What followed was not simple. Marco's defense was both immediate and heartbreaking. He had taken loans. Yes, because Hector had gambled with the estate, had guaranteed contracts for people who never repaid, had left the orchard mortgaged under a stranger's name. Marco had cleaned it up, he said, by moving funds, by borrowing against himself so the cooperative would not collapse. He had not enriched himself so much as starved himself to keep 100 jobs afloat. He had made sacrifices behind closed doors, signing away parts of the estate to keep others intact. The ledger, he argued, looked like theft because it was a ledger of survival. "Why didn't you tell me?" Anna asked, and the question stung because it was small and true. Why indeed had he not told her? Because he believed she'd leave again. Because he thought she had already chosen a life elsewhere. Because men like Marco sometimes think honesty is a luxury reserved for people who don't have to carry heavy things. The town split along invisible lines. People loved a clean villain, a man to blame, a man whose downfall could be toasted. They also loved the idea of sacrifice. Marco's supporters said Anna had orchestrated a modern crucifixion. The sister, who had returned to the family home only after it had been bequeathed to another. Her revenge began to be painted as a kind of theater. Righteous, yes, perhaps necessary, but cruel. As the law unfolded, so did other truths, small human defeats that complicate any tidy tale. Julian, Marco's son, was suspended from school after a confrontation. The cooperative's manager, a kind man who had stayed with the family for 40 years, collapsed with a stroke when layoffs began to ripple. Anna watched him in a hospital bed, his mouth forming a question he could not voice, and felt the first real fissures open inside her. She had not anticipated collateral. She had not anticipated the texture of remorse. The final act arrived on an ordinary morning when Anna found the ledger open on her kitchen table, its pages ruffled by the breeze from the window. Marco stood in the doorway, damp from rain, his eyes hollow and enormous. "You wanted the ledger," he said. "You wanted proof. Here, take it. But take this with it." He reached under his coat and placed on the table a small stack of photographs and a letter in her father's hand, the same slanted script Anna had read in the chapel. "You went through all of this for me?" she asked, because she wanted him to say yes. She wanted him to say he had always loved her, that everything had been his attempt at protection. "I went through it for everyone," Marco said, "including you. I thought cutting you off would save you from being dragged under the same debts. I thought you'd be freer if you were gone. I was wrong in how I did it. But I did it out of fear, Anna, not malice." The revenge she had long cultivated, the cold arithmetic of humiliation and exposure, collapsed in that sentence like a paper wall. Anna looked at the ledger and the photos and the letter. Her father's handwriting, asking forgiveness again and again for choices only a man can explain to himself. The revelation did not undo the harm, it complicated it. It made her anger look less like righteous flame and more like something brittle that had burned everything around it. She could have walked away then. She could have folded the ledger, apologized, and reclimbed the scaffolding of family ties. Instead, she laid the ledger down on the table and began to read aloud the raw entries, the transfers, the names of contractors who had never been paid, the hidden loans. She read them like scripture. When she finished, Marco had a further confession. He had been forced to sign with one hand to assure a creditor they would be paid. In the other, he had arranged for Hector's last contract to be honored, a contract that kept the cooperative solvent for one more season. The climax of her revenge was not explosive. There was no dramatic courtroom confession. There was instead a slow, devastating public erosion. Marco's business reputation dented, creditors taking tighter interest, the cooperative demanding restructuring. People lost jobs. Julian moved away to live with his mother in another town. Anna's mother retreated into herself and suffered a minor stroke that left her voice thin and pragmatic. The town's cafe where she'd once laughed with Hector closed. The ledger had been opened, the secrets spilled, and the resolution tasted of ash. In the aftermath, Anna sat in her father's study and watched a photograph fall from the shelf. It showed the three of them, Hector, Marco, Anna, younger, messy, uncomposed. Hector's arm was around both their shoulders. He had believed family meant salvage, He had believed, wrongly or otherwise, that shielding his children from certain truths was love. The cost, when tallied, was a ledger full of barely legible transactions and names who no longer trusted one another. Anna's victory had a face, a ruined gala, a bank letter marked default, a cooperative manager in a hospital bed, a nephew now learning to live in a different city. Her revenge had another face, the small, private relief she felt when she read Hector's letter that said simply, "Forgive me." It did not erase the day Marco's son looked at her with the hurt of kids who had no say. It complicated it, as regret complicates courage. In the months that followed, the family rebuilt on different ground. Marco sold a parcel of land to pay a single creditor and left the rest of the estate to community management. Anna took an unpaid role in the cooperative's accounting, not because she believed in the legend of recompense, but because numbers were the only honest place she could stand and be useful. The town murmured the story for a season, and then speaks of it sometimes like a bad dream. You remember the faces, the ledger, the way people's hands trembled when they signed papers. One evening, Anna met Julian on a hill overlooking the orchard. He was taller now. The boy who had wound rubber bands around his catapult was a young man who answered her with a cautious civility. They walked in silence among trees that still bore fruit no law could truly take. At the ridge, Anna put her hand on Julian's shoulder. "I did this," she said. "I made choices." He did not speak immediately. "You also made me lose what I called home," he replied. "That matters." "Yes," she said. "It matters more than I thought it would." They did not forgive each other then. They did not need to. They simply let the admission sit between them like a quiet thing both could hold, neither denying that harm had been done, nor insisting that redemption would come easily. The true cost of familial loyalty, Anna learned, was not measured in ledgers or court cases. It was measured in the quiet rooms where people kept their small private griefs. It was measured in the way a mother's eyes grew thinner and then softer with age. It was measured in a nephew's slow exodus and the way a town relearned to trust one another's hands. In the end, revenge had not returned her what she had lost. It had taught her the exact weight of what she had become when she pursued it. She had wanted to restore a name. Instead, she had rewritten it with a scar. The ledger stayed on the kitchen table for years, a thing that people still touched, briefly, like a relic. Sometimes at night, Anna read it again. Not to feed the flame, but to remember that truth is a burden, and whether it is wielded in the light or hidden in the dark, it shapes the lives of those who hold it. She had been right to want accountability. She had been wrong to believe vengeance would heal. Under the olive trees, the harvest came and went. People mended fences. People forgave in small, begrudging ways. They planted new trees where old ones had fallen. And Anna, who had entered the family story with a pocketed letter and a plan, learned that the most honest revenge is sometimes the hardest to execute, not to destroy, but to admit you were wrong to think destruction would free anyone. Thank you for watching. If you believe in stories that challenge, inspire, and connect, stay with us. Subscribe, follow, and be part of our growing creative community.